Yeah, and again, it goes back to wanting to build an experience, right? So if the most important thing that you're thinking about is winning basketball games or winning wrestling matches, you're going to miss this huge opportunity to create an experience for the students, right? For student athletes, like this, there's more to this than just the minutes, than just the scoreboard, than just the championships.
Hey guys, welcome back to Bold. My name is Isabel, and in this episode, we have Coach Medina. Coach Medina is the UST basketball head coach here, and is a UST alumnus, and he used to play basketball here. In this episode, we talk about the shift 2D3. We also talk about staying humble. But before we get started, make sure to like and subscribe. Check us out on Instagram and YouTube at Max Studio UST to stay in the loop and get a behind-the-scenes sneak peek at everything that we're working on. Now, let's jump into this episode of Bold with Coach Medina. Coach Medina, how are you?
I've seen these before. I was hoping that you would do that. I was really hoping that you would lead in with that tone. That was really good. I'm happy to be here.
Oh, well, thanks
Even
for
more
being
excited
here.
now, if I'm being honest.
Okay, good. I'm glad. Tell the people who you are if they don't already know you.
I am Anthony Medina. I'm the head men's basketball coach here at St. Thomas. I just finished my 8th season as the basketball coach here, and I'm actually also an alumni. I was here from 2009 to 2012, and I also played basketball here.
Nice. And how was your experience here?
That is a long answer. I think that there's so much that goes into it. When I walked away from my time here at St. Thomas, I remember going to Coach Smith's office. Coach Smith, our athletic director, was the men's basketball coach back then. I played for him. I spent all my time in his office. So I would go there before practice, and then I'd come by after practice and sit there for hours and not let him work. But it's interesting that you asked the question about experience because it framed the way that I view my job. Because I told him, this was the best experience that I could have asked for. And I couldn't have walked away, I couldn't have walked in thinking that this could have ever been what it was. And so to him, it meant the world. And I didn't know that until he later told me, when you said that it was an unbelievable experience, that made me feel like I did a good job. Wins, losses, otherwise, it made me feel like I did what I was supposed to do. So now as the coach, I frame everything that I do with the focus of creating an incredible experience for guys that will last a lifetime.
That's awesome. And what made this experience so incredible?
There's a lot that goes into that, right? So basketball is super important to me, obviously, right? I chose to do it for a living. Having an environment where I could come to work, right, for basketball, that's how I viewed it. I love to be here, I love to work. And it be respected and appreciated because we played at a high level meant a lot to me, right? So that whole component on the basketball side was really valuable. And I got to live out what was a dream for me, right? And so anytime you get to do something like that and really live out something you grew up seeing, envisioning, is a special opportunity. Now, on the academic side, if I'm being completely honest, we're full on being honest here, I was not a very good high school student, right? When I was in high school, I didn't think I was gonna go to college. I used to tell my mom I wasn't gonna go to college. I grew up in a family of construction workers, and I believed that I was supposed to be a construction worker. And I figured myself out later in life and landed here. And so I valued the opportunity to be on this campus more than probably any other student at the time because I recognized where I could be or where I thought that I would be growing up, right? Where I thought that I belonged. And being on St. Thomas's campus helped me realize that I have a lot more potential than what I saw in myself, especially when I was young. So living it all out together created an unbelievable experience because I made great friends. I can look back on basketball and I had that. The academics pushed me in a way that I didn't know that I could be pushed. And I became what I am today, for better or worse. I don't know if it's good or bad.
I think it's good. I think it's awesome. And I want to talk about you playing basketball here.
Oh, gosh.
You
okay.
were, at the end of your career,
oh boy,
you were the all-time leader in points,
yes,
rebounds, minutes played,
sure,
games played, and 3 points made.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, you could look at it one of two ways, right? He scored a lot of points and he got a lot of rebounds, and then you look at the next two categories, but I also played more games and played more minutes. right? So I had more time to do it.
Okay.
When you look back on it, like not that you're going to find the film, you could try.
I'll try.
But we had a really good point guard named Travis Lampley who was here at the same time. And to be completely honest, a lot of my success was because I played alongside him on the offensive end. He made the game unbelievably easy for everybody on the floor, right? And so when I look back and I hear, he's all-time leader in points, truthfully, a lot of that was because I played with him. He made the game super easy to play. All I had to do was catch it and shoot it most of the time. And when you play a lot of basketball, it's not that complicated, right? Okay. And so I owe a lot of the success that I had to my as a player to him and Coach Smith and all the positions he put me in. And so we did have success, and those things all sound great, but the reality was that it was a byproduct of the people that I was playing with and then who I got to play for, which is Coach Smith.
Yeah, and I want to talk about, Coach Smith, what?
That's my guy. Guy.
How so?
How so?
Yeah.
How so? This is where we could go into a lot of depth. There's a lot there. He's like, not an exaggeration, that guy's like my hero. He's like my idol. When I got to campus here, I didn't know him that well. I knew him well enough. I'd known him for about a year, but we started to develop a relationship, and then he became the person that I turned to for everything. I mean, literally everything. When I found out that I was having my son Memphis, we found out we were having Memphis, he was the first person that I called. When I graduated, he was actually at the end of the stage when I got my undergrad degree. And I worked for his father at Missouri Western State, right? So I'm almost like a member of their family, whether they want me to be or not. Like I'm just kind of like lingering. I'm not going anywhere. But he is easily one of the most influential and impactful people that I've ever had in my life. There are certain moments, without being too philosophical or deep or whatever, it's my opinion, I think that there's pivotal moments in our lives and we meet people for a very specific reason. There are things that help make our faith stronger, and there's moments that we can look back on and say like, oh, things are happening for a reason. When I look back on my life and when Coach Smith came into the picture and everything that has happened ever since I met him, I genuinely believe that he was put in my life with purpose. And so he is, bar none, one of the most important people in my life, that's for sure.
Yeah, wow. And how was it like, because you played for him.
I did.
And then you took his job.
Okay.
And became the head coach.
You don't have to word it like that.
Okay,
you don't want to make it sound like that. I didn't take it from him.
Okay.
He
gave you.
He gifted it.
Gifted.
Well, gifted it? Do we want to call it a gift?
You tell me.
There wasn't a bow, so I don't know if it was a gift.
Passed it down?
Like a torch.
Sure.
So like passing the torch. So that's probably the best way to put it. So I didn't take it from him.
No, sorry.
It's jokes aside. So when I played here, like I said, I used to sit in his office every single day. I knew I wanted to be a coach.
Really?
I knew it's what I wanted. So I spent a ton of time with him, and I asked question after question after question. We would talk about the games. We would talk about practice. We'd talk about anything you could think of. And by the end of my career, he had known the whole time that I wanted to be a coach. He used to say, one day you'll probably be the coach here. One day you'll probably be the coach here. And I thought he was kidding. I thought he was just like trying to be nice. And he wasn't, because here I am. Yeah, he meant it. I think he saw something in me in terms of my passion and my commitment to the game, my commitment to myself and my teammates. And I think that watching me go through the process as a player and seeing how much it mattered to me made it easy for him to say, this is going to be our next head coach. And so when he passed it down, I think he had confidence. I'm pretty sure he had confidence in me that good things would come from it. So I wouldn't say I took it. I think, let's go back to gift. It was a bow. There was a bow. There's a gift. Okay.
And when you accepted that gift,
yeah,
what was it like? What were you feeling in that moment?
I've told younger coaches this, not that I'm old, but I've told guys that just get into this and they get their head coaching jobs and first opportunities, I tell them the same thing. When you take the job, you have all these beliefs that like, what you're doing. And like, when I get that job, like, we're gonna do this. And then you get in it and the water's a lot deeper than you realize. And you don't know how to swim, right? So you're gonna have to figure this out. So when I took the job, I was ultra confident. I had like nothing was going to touch me. I was going to come in 100 miles an hour and like everything was going to be done just the way that I wanted. And then reality strikes. right? And you realize that there's a whole lot of things that you're not aware of that are going to be decisions that you have to make. There's going to be hard choices you have to make. You're going to make a million mistakes, right? And so I didn't see all that behind the curtain when I took the job. So I was blindly optimistic, right? But the amount of growth that I've had through all the experiences that I've had at St. Thomas, I could never quantify, right? And so, yeah, that guy that had no idea what he was walking into, I feel like now I can be a voice for others who get their first head coaching job and tell them, like, hey, man, there's a lot more to it than just X's and O's, and you're going to figure it out fast.
Yeah, absolutely. So I wrestled in college.
Oh,
I mean, in
get
high
outta here.
school. In high school.
You
I wrestled in high
you
school.
wrestled?
Yeah. Fun fact.
You could kill me then. You could, like, tear me apart if you wanted to.
Nah, I don't know about that.
Wow, I totally heard the tone. That was a yes in the tone. That was a yes in the tone. That was a no, but a yes. And we
But
all heard it, and that's fine.
Anyways, so I wrestled in high school, and it's like you look at your coach and you're like, oh, if I was coach, you know, like, you know, you have all these ideas, but you're saying there's a lot more that goes into it.
Yeah, and again, it goes back to wanting to build an experience, right? So if the most important thing that you're thinking about is winning basketball games or winning wrestling matches, you're going to miss this huge opportunity to create an experience for the students, right? For student athletes, like this, there's more to this than just the minutes, than just the scoreboard, than just the championships. And what you have to figure out is all the working pieces, right? So one thing I never considered when I got here, we go on the road, what am I going to feed them? You don't think of that, right? So like you're like, we're going to run this offense, we're going to play defense like this, and we're going to do this and that, and we're on all of these things. You have these grand like visions, and then it's time to take your first road trip, and you're like, what time do we need to leave to get there on time if we're going to feed them? And where are we going to eat? Right? It doesn't seem like a big deal, right? But when you're in charge of the entire group, like every decision matters, right? Because the reality is if I fed them Whataburger every meal, everywhere we went, all the time, that would negatively impact their experience, right? And so you have to be, and this is obviously small scale, but you have to be conscious of every choice that you make, right? And the reality is not every student athlete is going to be happy with every decision, and you have to move past that. If you do it with a good conscience and a good faith and a good heart, and you're just trying to do right by them, whether they're satisfied with it or they're happy with it or not, won't matter as much because you know you're genuinely doing the best you can for them.
And that's all that matters.
No, because if we lost every game, I get fired. So no, that doesn't. It's not the only thing that matters, right? There's more to it, but certainly, like building the experience is important, right? And winning is part of that experience. And so for us, what we're trying to continue to do is build this championship experience because guys want to be here and they want to be a part of it and they buy into the work, right? But all of those individual decisions go into that experience, which is ultimately what leads to, good players and good people wanting to be on our team.
Nice. All right. Now we're going to go to Coach Medina's office, and we're going to talk about his dream team. If you had to make a dream team,
All right.
right, out of old players or current players,
Okay.
I'll give you 8 players that you can pick, and a dream team.
8 players all time, St. Thomas basketball.
St. Thomas basketball.
Okay. It could be anybody that's ever played.
Or is currently playing.
Okay. Does it have to be by position?
It's up to you. Dream team.
Okay. I mean, what's the goal for the team?
To win. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm just making sure because,
Wait. Come on, Coach.
there's some guys that are fun to hang out with. You know what I mean?
No.
So it just depends on what we're looking at. Okay.
We want winners.
They're all winners in my eyes. You know what I mean? Are
Answer-
you implying that some of them are not?
Answer the question.
Okay, answer the question. All right. So I get 8 guys. We're going to start with the most obvious one, in my opinion. In my opinion, is Travis Lampley. I don't think it's close. I think he's by far number 1. He's number 1. Cannot go without Cameron Gims, 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, 5-time champion. Christian Alekwe, first-team All-Region. He's playing professionally. His senior year here was probably the best season anybody's ever had, like individual season, one season. Brian Kazi, who's a former teammate of mine. He played here 4 years. He was a part of the championship team in 2013. No pressure. Okay, Big Nate. So Nathan Thormalin. Got to go with Big Nate. Kennard Robinson, 100%. He's on that team. He's probably the most aggressive winner we've ever had. Josh Sanchez, for sure. Right. The interesting thing about him is like if you just look at box scores, you'll never know how good that guy was. He contributed to more winning than probably anybody we've ever had. I am going to take Derek Dudley with the final pick. Do you know who that is? Mm-mm. That's disrespectful. That could be hurtful. What if he hears this? Unbelievable. Okay, so Derek Dudley was a freshman my senior year. Okay. I believe he won multiple Defensive Player of the Year awards, and he was a part of the 2013 championship team. He actually was an assistant for us when I first got here, so he worked as a coach here as well. You got to do your homework. You should know these things. Do we have 8? Did we land on 8?
We have like
we
9.
Didn't. Okay.
Like 9,
all right. So
we'll
Travis, Cam, Chris, Nate, Josh. Yes?
Yes.
Kennard for sure. Rowe, and Dud. We're going to go with that. Derek Dudley. That's my 8.
Dream team.
That's it. That's the dream
it.
team. Get him a uniform. Get him a uniform. Throw it on. Let's go win some more championships.
And we're back. All right, so you talk a lot about the experience that you want to have for these players. So when we had Calen Anderson on, he talked about how you taught him how to be a role model. Mm-hmm. Is that something that like you do on purpose, or it's just something that happens?
I taught him how to be a role model.
That's what his words.
Those are his words. Calen is a great role model regardless. He's an unbelievable person. Like, honestly, if I'm being completely honest, he has motivation and work ethic that I wish I had. So, like, there's some things that I watch in him that I'm like, okay, when I was younger, I was more like him, right? I was, like, hungry and chasing everything that would move. And sometimes I wish I was able to get out of, like, laser focus and be like him and be persistent in a lot of different areas. So for him to say that, I really appreciate. Truthfully, I honestly just approach every day with all the experiences that I've had in my life and just try to live it out, right? I recently heard somebody say, we want to preach the word and occasionally we can speak, right? So we preach using our actions, right? And so on a day-to-day basis, we are an example of God's love through the way that we behave on a day-to-day basis, right? And the way that we treat others, the way that we interact. And so my focus is honestly just to be the best person I can be every day, given what I've seen and given what I know. I'm very lucky because my grandfather, my father, my mother, unbelievably hardworking people that showed up when things were difficult and showed up when things were going well, and they gave the same effort. I was raised by my grandparents, so I spent a lot of time with my grandparents. And what you learn is that they love you unconditionally, like no matter what. And you can learn how to use your heart in your relationships and really care for others. And so just having that opportunity growing up to see both what hard work looks like and what loving somebody truly looks like, I think I've had the opportunity to just really try to live those things out on a day-to-day basis. And so if it has a positive impact on people, I'm happy to hear that. If I'm being 100% honest, I didn't do it on purpose.
Interesting. Well, I'm glad you did. And let's shift gears a little bit. So is it this season, the shift to D3?
Yeah, well, we did it, 4 years ago? And we completed it this year.
Okay.
So this is our first official year in Division III.
And how was that?
In some ways, the same, right? Because you still schedule, play games, travel, all that's not any different. But there's this tone in the background of national rankings, regional rankings, will you make the national tournament, things like that, because there's a bigger goal, right? Now winning a national title on the NCAA stage is a possibility. So now you're working towards that, but what you don't want to do is have the background noise intersect with the work, right? Because you don't want guys doing the work because they want the results or because they want the positive reinforcement from other people's ranking and opinions. but they are happening, whether you want them to or not. And so this is the first time we really had to deal with, all the chatter on the side. Where are they ranked really? How good are they? How good are their opponents? How good is Calen? While still staying on course to have the most success we can in terms of wins and losses, right? As we possibly can. So a lot more distractions once the lights turn on. Mm-hmm. I think we did a really good job of it during the regular season. But overall, I would say it was very similar with the exception of that piece of the background noise.
Coach of the region. Let's talk about. Well, I know.
Let's not talk about that.
That's huge.
I appreciate that. It's a great honor, and I really do appreciate it. I honestly, my opinion about those types of awards is they overlook the success of the staff, right? So we have more guys on staff when you say there's a coach of the year, when that's just not the case. And then the reality is that it's almost impossible, it is impossible to have a great season without great players, right? And so if we had a mediocre season and we were, not nearly as good in the win-loss category, we wouldn't have won that, right? We wouldn't have that. And it's a lot of it just goes down onto what the guys are able to produce on a day-to-day basis. My responsibility, honestly, is just to keep them organized and give them a direction. But at the end of the day, it's they're the ones that have to produce. They're the ones that have to show up every day. And so those awards drive me nuts because they don't give enough recognition to the assistant coaches who also make all of these things move, and then the players who are the ones that put the points on the board and stop people from scoring, which is the name of the game, right? For me, if I'm the best coach that I can be for our guys, then I'm happy about it. And some days I fail at that, and sometimes I succeed. And so I'm just going to keep fighting that fight and worry less about the national recognition. All right, next season. All right, what do you want to know? Where are we at? What are you most curious about? I need you to list the top 3 things that you're most interested in learning, and I'm going to give you the most straightforward answer, unfiltered. Do you guys have a beep button in case I curse? I'm just kidding. I'm just joking. I don't do that.
Okay.
Go ahead. 3 things you're most interested in knowing about the team for next year. Go ahead, ask.
How far do you think they're going to advance?
That's a great question. A lot of that depends on how well the current players develop in the summer. So we have the pieces to have success in a year. Now, we've got 6 guys returning with legitimate game experience, guys that have played a good number of minutes, which is a good number. We've got young guys who haven't quite been through that yet, and so they have to get better and speed up their development so that they're ready to go when we get to that point, right? Season starts. A lot of our ability to go deeper into tournament play or get into the national tournament is going to be taking the younger guys or the newer guys, the new recruits, and building them together and using each month as just a building process, right? Because if we can build, because it's not gonna happen right away. Mm-hmm. I think that if we're gonna struggle, it's gonna be early. But I do think that because of what we have coming in so far in terms of recruits and the development of the guys that we have coming back, I think we'll play our best basketball hopefully in February and March. How far that takes us, I don't know because a lot of it remains to be seen. Calen is a great example. Andrew Debo is a great example. They're 2 guys that they have been a part of really good teams, but the responsibility to produce every game hasn't been on their shoulders yet. And it's here now, right? So how will they respond to that pressure? My money says it's going to be really good. I think that they'll produce a lot of great things. But when the lights turn on, it's a different deal, right? When it's your responsibility, it's a different deal. So I'm just as excited to see that as you are.
I am. I'm excited.
Good.
All right.
You can pick it up.
I'm excited.
See, that's better. Now we're working. We're working.
Cool.
Go ahead. Second question. You get 3.
I get 3?
You got to be more. Look, this is like a genie with some wishes. Like, I need you to really consider what you're asking here because I'm going to tell you the truth about whatever you want to know.
Okay, second question.
Uh-oh.
What's going to make this next season different? Or is there anything that you're going to do differently?
Yes, for sure. We're specifically recruiting in a different direction right now than what we had in the past. Not that it was wrong. Stylistically, what we've done in the past. So 4 years ago, we played 1,000 miles an hour. We averaged like 93 points a game. We played super fast. And then in the last 3 years, we've drifted and we played significantly slower, right? And so what I found is that there is an opportunity to try to do both if we recruit correctly, right? If we recruit guys that are athletic enough, like the ones that we had a few years ago, we can pick the pace up and play faster, but we have to be really selective about developing their skill set so that we can try to merge the two. So what we've seen is like we won a championship in the last 5 years straight, right? So what do those teams have separately that we can combine? Because I'm well aware of what the common denominators are. And so going into this upcoming season, what will be different? We're going to try to press a little bit more. We're going to try to play a little bit faster and speed people up a little bit more. Our defense in a half court is one of the best in the country. Statistically, every year we're one of the best. So what we want to do now is say, can we keep that core and eat your clock at the same time, right? Because if we can do that, we will be even harder to score on, which is the goal, right? Nice. So that's kind of the focus right now. And I think that those two things will play well together, especially with what we have coming back.
Who's going to be your hardest opponent next season?
It's a great question, Darnell. It's hard to tell. So what we're doing right now is we're mapping out our schedule. We're getting contracts out to set all of our non-conference games. And what we're trying to do is schedule the most difficult games that we can with people just basically anywhere, anyone that'll play us, to make our overall resume as impressive as possible. Within the conference, you're always looking at Trinity. You anticipate that they'll be good. And upcoming season, you would think that Shriner will be good. So they won our conference tournament this year. They got to play in the national tournament. They had a really good push late going into the conference tournament. They played really, really well down the stretch. I think that they'll be good because they're young, and a lot of their pieces are coming back. They're going to be missing one that I think is kind of like a multiplier for them. He makes everybody else better. But the big core of that group is back, so I think that they'll be good as well. In terms of long term, you're probably looking at Colorado College being somebody also, because they're also young, and I think that they'll turn the corner. And once they turn the corner, they're going to be really good.
Awesome.
That's a really good question. Thank you for asking that and thinking of it.
Well, that's all.
You invited me. I
didn't know what I was getting myself into, honestly. Coach, thanks so much for being here.
That was really good. I appreciate the enthusiasm in that. No, thank you so much for having me. It's I love representing the university, so getting an opportunity to do things like this is really exciting for me. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks so much for watching. Stay bold, guys.